All right, let's get started. Good afternoon. My name is Jan Beyen. I am the delivery manager for the US and Canada for REALTECH. Today we're going to talk about the SAP Cloud Platform and specifically about advanced compliance reporting. So what are we going to talk about? Well, first we're going to talk a little bit about REALTECH, who we are, where we came from. Then we're going to talk about the SAP Cloud Platform and specifically the why, the what, the how, and then at the end, some of the lessons that we learned in this process, and then at the end, Q&A. So, who are we? REALTECH, we were founded in 1994 in Germany, in Waldorf, right across the street from SAP headquarters. It was started by 4 employees of SAP. They were basis consultants, and they were part of the Windows NT implementation of Deutsche Post. They went public in 1998, and in that same year, they opened an office in the United States, in Houston, and then I believe in the early 2000s, they moved to Philadelphia, not far from Newtown Square, where we still are. We have a global presence, both in Europe, in the Americas, New Zealand, and in Asia, in Japan. So what do? There are basically 2 sides to the business. There's the consulting side from a technical basis perspective and a software side. On the consulting side, we are probably best known for OSDB migrations and upgrades. Specifically, in 1998, the first quarter, SAP had just released the migration toolkit, and instead of doing it themselves, their first production migration, they asked REALTECH to do it, and it was successful. And we've done in the last 20 years over 1,000 and counting OSDB migrations, and we've never failed. Besides that, we do upgrades, installs, enhancement packs, all that good stuff. Migrations to HANA, S/4HANA, and now cloud migrations and managed services around basis. This last part is very successful with organizations, smaller organizations, that after they've gone live.
Neural network.
Hello?
Sometimes the synapses take a long time for the little message to jump.
I can hear you, and it's funny, something. Anyway, so we do managed services for smaller organizations. On the software side, we developed a change process management software, transport manager, and synchronizations. It is a product that is basically a couple of transports, and in 4 weeks, maybe 6, it is up and running. It has a workflow and all that, and probably the best feature of all that we hear about is that when the auditors come along, instead of having this panic of finding out who did what, you click on a button, it runs a report, and you can give it to the auditors. It makes that part of your life as a basis administrator significantly easier. So why do customers go to REALTECH? Why pick us? I mean, you can go to Accenture or Deloitte, but why? First of all, we are specialized. We are specialists. We are doing only a few things, and we do them well. We are certified in the things that we do. We have lots and lots and lots of experience. And we have worldwide experience too. So in case we bump into something in the US, there is usually somebody in the network that has bumped into a similar situation somewhere else. So that really, really helps. This are one of the reasons why organizations choose REALTECH. So in this project, we worked with a company called Ellis. They are a chemical company. They were once a family-owned business in Indianapolis. They, I believe, developed or invented synthetic rubber that they use in tires during the war, or just before the war, World War II, that is. Currently, they're in 15 locations worldwide, and they make things like stills, rubber, and parts, if you eat cornflakes, the vitamins that go into cornflakes come from them, for example. Anyway, they are currently owned by private equity, and this is kind of their spread worldwide. So as you can see on this slide, they have a couple of locations in the UK, and that is basically what drove them to look at the SAP Cloud Platform, the advanced compliance reporting service, because as of April 1st of this year, the UK law went into effect that required organizations of a certain size to report their value-added tax, or VAT, electronically. And the interesting thing was, this was like 2 days after the first Brexit was supposed to happen, and so it was like, is this related? No, it was absolutely not related to Brexit. But for Ellis, and probably if you are doing business in England or the UK, those were things that they kept really close watch at what was happening with the Brexit situation, and they are still doing with all the political upheaval that we've read about almost on a daily basis. So the Advanced Compliance Reporting Service has a number of options. There is the Smart Data Integration, which is for ECC 6, Enhancement Pack 6 and above. The ABAP application, and that is only for Enhancement Pack 5 under ECC. And then there is the generic API or Excel integration. Since Vertellis is running Enhancement Pack 5, we implemented the ABAP data replication. So if you have any questions about this, there are a number of notes on this, and we kind of in the beginning went down the wrong path because we thought that it was Enhancement Pack 5 or better for the smart data integration, but that really doesn't work. So pay close attention to what the notes say. That is of importance. So there's basically this decision tree that you walk through on what you're going to implement. And so if you walk down this implementation, by the way, don't worry, you don't have to make copious notes. We will share these slides with you after the webinar. So if you need to have a closer look at it, don't worry. But it basically shows you, your application type in this case is an ABAP report. There are a bunch of nodes that you have to implement, and then again we went down the ABAP report side, and then activated data sources, etc., etc. Anyway, but I will show you all that on an existing live system. So again, not to worry. So what is involved? Well, when you sign up, when you talk to SAP and you say that you want to do this, they will give you a URL, and I will show you right now what that looks like. That looks like this. As you can see, it says the SAP Cloud Platform Cockpit, and this is the opening page. This is the home page, and you can see this is theory-based. I hope this works. It's not very fast. And so you see here both the production and the test environments. As you can see, the data center is in Europe, in Rood, which is just outside of Waldorf. And in here, you will see all the stuff that they will give you. But the most important things that you will look at in this is under authorizations. When this is given to you and you'll get a user ID and password to log in, because you might wonder, it's like, how do I get in here? You have to set up the users that are gonna have access. And as you can see, these are S users, and these are exactly the same S users that people have. Their IDs are for logging into the SAP Marketplace. And the security people, there are these different kind of roles, and you can assign S users accordingly. So that's where you do this. This was the development test system, so everybody got access to everything in this. But in production, that is, of course, different. And so you have to work with your security people in setting this up. The other URL that you get is this one. So you get two URLs. One URL for the security, and then one URL for the configuration and the running of the application. And we will go into these different Fiori tiles momentarily. So on the ECC, because there are basically two sides to this, there's the ECC side to it, and then there's the cloud side to it. There's setup that has to take place on either side. How you apply SAP notes, I assume you know how to use S notes, so I'm not going to show you that. That's not that interesting. Then there's some configuration of some tables and stuff like that, and that is not that interesting either. There is here, you have to create an RFC connection under HTTP. It's an HTTP connection from ECC to the SAP Cloud platform. We called it SCP VAT for SAP Cloud Platform Value Added Tax, but you can call it whatever you want, and you have to be kind of consistent about that. Otherwise, you get confused. You will see here some really, really long URL, which if you've paid close attention, let's see if I can get that back. It's very similar to this, so that's how it all connects. All this good stuff is provided by you in the documentation. The documentation is actually pretty good, and this is the standard port. On the security side, you use, again, an SID and a password, and make sure that you scroll down and make sure that you have this activated. And to make sure, you have to implement or install under S-Trust the, where are you? There. You have to install this under S-Trust because that will make the connection between the cloud platform and your ECC HTTP connection work. If you don't do this, it won't work. It will bark at you. So pay close attention. So after you've done all your setup on the ECC side, you have to do some configuration on the cloud platform side. Second. One second. Bear with me. As you might understand or have figured out by now, it's not very complicated. A part of the challenge is that the part on the cloud side, you have no idea what's happening under the hood. So you are kind of beholden to SAP. So the first thing you do is you set up your systems. And this is all there is to it. Make sure that this is right and this is right, and that's all there is to that. The next part is because at the end of this whole exercise, after you've collected all the data, on the cloud platform, you have to submit your information to the UK government in this case. And so where it says legal identifier, that's your VAT number. So to create your submission unit, there's here on the right-hand side a plus sign, and you give it a name. You can do whatever you want. Description, in this case, it's for the UK, but there are others. Like here, you see one for the Netherlands. There are submission types for like Saudi Arabia and places like that, and you put here your VAT number in, and then somewhere along the line you also have to provide a password. I would not share that information with a consultant because that's that can cause all kinds of security issues. So because the UK tax authority doesn't have a quote unquote test environment to test this against, so you can only do it with live data. It makes the last step you can't do until you go live, which is kind of like, does this really work? But it does seem to work. So the way we set it up, it has 9 digits, and that's what you're seeing here. Then there's the next piece is this setting up of the reporting entities. Let's see. This is the development QA environment. That's why there are multiple. Again, you see this Great Britain VAT DCL declaration report. Again, you have to assign the different users that can do this. And you see here at the bottom the reporting level. I don't know why, but this seems to be this is a requirement that you say the date it is valid from, and then so this one started in January last year, but you can pick anything. The only drawback is that the reporting range is a 3-year range, and then you have to redo it. This is the company code that Vertellis uses in the UK in their ECC system. So somebody in the finance department will have to provide you with that information. The second then here is the SID of your system and your client number. If any of this is missing, it won't work. I know this from experience. Now the other part is, it took me some time to figure this out. I actually had to open a ticket because I literally didn't see it. There are these little greater than arrows at the side of these lines. They are actually an indication that there's more things to the right. And it took me some time to figure out. So here you see that it is active from January 2018 to December 2020. You have to, probably your financial year is a calendar year, but that is not a requirement. The due indicator is basically it gives you a warning up front. It's like, hey, it's time to start moving. You have to start providing this information to the UK government. Vertellis does this on a monthly basis, and so that's why it is monthly. And let's see. That's it. That's that. So again, it is not very difficult, but pay close attention. There was an interesting error when we started doing this. You would put in January 1st, 2018, and when you saved it, it would say December 31st, 2017. Why that was, I don't know. SAP fixed it. But if you see that, open a note with SAP, because if these dates change, your VAT reporting is based on these dates. And so if you're off by a day, then what you see in your ECC system will be different than what is reported to the UK government. So pay close attention on what these dates are doing. And if you are reporting on different date ranges, absolutely do so. because you have that flexibility and that ability to do that. Let's go. Now with Vertelis, there was an interesting challenge, was that some of their configuration on the ECC system needed to be updated and adjusted for the new environment. And so the finance group had to get involved and set up the tax boxes correctly. And you will see a picture in a moment after this. Well, that is thinking. We can go here. So after everything is set up, you go and there is this new transaction in ECC that you run. What? Can I not spell? There. So you can run this as a transaction, or you can run this report out of SE38. I think the transaction is easier. So you supply it with the RFC destination. This is the RFC destination that you saw earlier. Then you provide the reporting category. So this is for the UK VAT declaration. And then there are these three options. Transaction data, as you know, the word indicates, are the data that you are going to send over of the transactions that you did during the month, or maybe better said, since the last time that you ran this report. So if you say run this report on April 30th for the last time, and then you have to do it for May, and you run it on May, or say on June 1st, it will do everything from the last time you ran it and every transaction that happened since. So it is not going back in time. It literally brings over the deltas that are relevant. Now you have to put in this replication task ID, and here you go. You select it. And you run the report. I have no idea what's in here. So this runs the report and basically moves the data over from ECC to the SAP Cloud Platform. And if everything goes okay, you will see these things with green dots, which is a good thing. It shows you the number of rows it's replicated. It says it uploaded successfully, and all that. So those are good things. If there's anything wrong, like there's problems with your certificates, or there's a problem with your SIDs or anything else, it will show up in here. And let's see. I'm not sure why this is taking so long. I'm not sure why SAP is taking its time, but the idea here is that you will see the result of this in here. Oh, there you go. So there you go. As you can see, the row code is 7. It happened today. It gives you a timestamp, etc. If you click on it, so anyway, so that's what that does. And it's, again, if there are errors, they will show up in that report. And it allows you to track of when things happened, who did it, you know, how many did. You can compare. It's like, okay, there are 100 records that were collected on ECC, and there are 100 records that ended up in the cloud platform. So there's an audit trail is there, and that will make your auditors happy. So now the last thing to do is run the compliance report. And as you can see, there's been a lot of playing around with a lot of dates over time. So let's pick one. So to run the report, here on the right-hand bottom side, it says New Run. And then you click here. Again, you see here on the left-hand top, you see under Company Code, you see the company code, which was 1054, which you configured earlier, the source system, which is R3Q client 700. Again, if anything is wrong, it will not show that, or it will show the wrong information, and then things will start not working. Here on the right top hand side, you do have a refresh button. This report generates really, really quickly. You click on it, and for you see, there were zeros this time, but that's probably because there was no data. But here's the data and these are the different quote-unquote tax boxes. Let me go to one that has some real data. Oh, no. Oops, sorry. I know that one's not right. Yeah, process. No. Oh, no. Here you go. So here, lots of legitimate data. And then the last thing you need to do is to submit this data. The thing is that once you submit this, you cannot go back to the UK government and say like, oops, made a mistake. You can, while you're here, edit this data if that is something that you need to do. You can, so the data comes over and you can run your report on your ECC system and say like, oh, this is not right, or that needs a small adjustment, or what have you. I'm not a finance person, so I don't really understand how that works, but that's how it works. And then you can send it over. Let's see. So you highlight it. In this case, because it doesn't go anywhere, when you're all ready and good to go, you click this submit button, and you get this. And you know, I'm aware that no changes can be made after this. So at this moment, I will disagree and take it back. So what have we learned? It was very important to read the documentation up front, like read it like all the way through. It is not a lot of documentation, but just to get an understanding of what is involved and who is involved. I am not a functional person, and so when the numbers came back, I was like, it looks good to me. But then the finance people in the UK, when they looked at it, they were like, oh, this is all wrong, and there's this missing and that, or this is, these numbers are too big or too small, what have you. So then the functional people, the finance functional people, had to go involved and make the adjustments. The other thing is that you have to keep track of your work, and that might sound really, really strange, but one of the issues that was tricky is, like, if you've worked in SAP for a while, transports and tracking of that is like so built in that it becomes automatic. The interesting thing is there is no such thing on the cloud side. So whatever you do in test, you have to redo in production. So keep close track of what you're doing. And that's, that might sound obvious, but it was like kind of a surprise. It was like, oh, I just, I have a transport. No, you have to redo it. So also from a time perspective, make sure that you do that. We went into a fair amount of issues, and it turned out to have our account rep basically forewarned of what we were doing. She became very, very instrumental in getting support elevated, and because a lot of the support is done out of India, it was very important because of the time difference to make that all work as smoothly as possible. It also took longer than we thought. We started in the beginning of March thinking that 4 weeks was enough. It took longer, partly, I think, because of that we were one of the first ones, of maybe even the first one organization to do this. So we just bumped into a lot of bugs. And so that made it take longer. The other thing that I thought was annoying was that the UK government didn't have a test site. We could not test if everything was working. That, the last step is like, does this really get to the other side? We had to wait to production. So that was a little bit, from an SAP perspective, usually when you go live, you've done your tests with the banks and the insurance companies and the healthcare companies and what have you, but no such thing with the UK government. Here's the link for the documentation. It is pretty good, so read it carefully before you start, and that will hopefully expedite your process. All right, now I have talked enough. Are there any questions? Okay, any questions? All right, if not, when you get these slides, here's a video about us. I'm the guy on the left there, and here are where we are on social media. If you like to get more information, either contact Alex Butler or myself. I really look forward to work with you on this. I thought it was a fun project, and I'll talk to you soon. And thank you for your attention, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.